So, I think, let's go ahead if you're okay with it, Majoy, just diving
Yep.
into the first topic that we have up here today, which is, how do you handle negative feedback? Because handling negative feedback effectively can, transform potentially really discouraging experiences that you may have into more opportunities for growth and actual improvement in your content creation journey. I actually have 5 strategies that I think that can help you. But before we get into the strategy, let's just talk about the obvious. When it happens, it hurts, right? It
Yeah,
just,
it hurts and it's very discouraging. That's the worst part because we have enough discouragement as content creators that are beyond our control. The very obvious elephant in the room is algorithm. So apart from that being already a pain in my bum, I also have to deal with, or we time to time receive this type of comments.
yeah, we do. And, we work so hard for all of the content that we put out. So receiving any negative feedback can really stir these intense emotions because we've invested a significant amount of effort, right, and passion into our content. So it's natural for you to feel a bit frustrated, right? Or maybe sometimes you might even feel angry when you're faced with this type of criticism. But I just want you to know that they're just normal human responses, right? It's an emotional response. It's rooted in our basic, and I'm psychology, so I have to bring this up. It's rooted in our basic psychological need that we have to for approval, and we have this sort of fear of failure. So when we encounter that, it can feel like a personal attack. So that's where I'm going with it. And it can undermine your professional competence, not to mention your self-esteem. And unfortunately, it can get physical too, right? Because we know that it's an emotional, so it goes into your physical sensations that you have. And so I want to just talk a little bit about that because I've experienced that myself where I haven't gotten a really negative comment per se, but I have got like the thumbs down on certain videos. And to be honest, when I got them, I was a little shocked because of my content that I put out is about basically loving yourself, being positive. So I was like, wow, I received a boo on that. So it was really hard for me. There was a lot of discomfort in that negative feedback. But for content creators, it can manifest to hesitancy, right? To publish new content, and it can actually alter your what you're doing as a creator, your expression to that. So you're it's doing this so that you avoid other criticism. So basically what it can do is put a roadblock, okay, and you could kind of withdraw from that. So what we want to do is we don't want to have that avoidance. We don't want to put that roadblock up. We want to recognize exactly what we can do with negative feedback, whether it's to a comment. It could be somebody that's watching your channel
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, like, I really didn't like how you did this, especially someone can really hurt because that's someone you love, right? Usually, or your friend or whatever. So I have some strategies that you can use to be able, if this happens to you. And I brought you 5. There's certainly much more. And Majoy, if you have something, you can chime in on it. But the first thing I want to tell you is you got to change your mindset. So you have to embrace more of what I would call a constructive mindset. Well, it just means that you're viewing that thumbs down or negative feedback as a chance for you to improve rather than a personal attack against you. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to analyze that feedback objectively. That's going to be hard, but it's possible. So you want to look at it, you want to say, wait, let's look for any recurring themes or specific areas that actually I may need to improve. maybe my camera presence, maybe my my audio isn't that great on all of my videos. Maybe I'm robotic. There's so many different things to think about that you can improve, because with every video, you're going to improve and you're going to be able to enhance your content. Do you want to add to that, Majoy?
No, you can continue.
Okay.
Yep.
That's the first point, because I know for me, it was like, I was like, well, I don't understand. But once I stepped back and looked at it, I understood. You also want to be able to respond professionally. I think that works in sales and anywhere else, because you have to acknowledge that the feedback that you received, you need to express some gratitude that someone cared enough to even leave, a comment. And then you want to, perhaps, if it's appropriate, respond to it in a professional manner, especially if it's one of your viewers. If they've given you some sort of feedback, like, hey, I like you here instead of there. And maybe you can't be here all the time, right? So I'm talking about maybe backgrounds, maybe, wherever you're at. And this approach will let your community, your viewers, know that you're committed to growing this community. You're committed to giving them the best content that you can. So it maintains a positive brand image, because ultimately you are the brand, right? So you
Well, I
want.
also, sorry, if I can add a bit on that part, right? I think my question is, how many of that boo or dislike do you get? Is it significant numbers? And I think this is a question to all the viewers you have in your channel who are also fellow content creators like us. I
Yeah.
think my way of thinking there is, how many are they, and how regular is it recurring to my videos? Of course, if we're talking about like really significant numbers. For example, your views in your video is, let's say, 30 views, and then there's at least 30 to 40% who dislike. Then for me, it's my
Yeah.
take on this, right? I feel like, okay, then I need to really look into myself, review that video, and see what is it that they disliked about this content. Clearly, if the number is so high, there has to be reasons why. Maybe my language was not appropriate. Maybe I'm going off the rail, off the topic all the time, or I'm so random and I'm wasting their time. You know, that's how I perceive that. But if just one Karen, I call them a Karen, when they dislike my video for no reason, if there's just one of them occasionally, I
Yeah.
probably would not sweat on that, because I feel like, we can't really please everyone. It's not necessarily that we did something wrong with our content and with the hard work. To your point, the hard work that we put in. So that's probably one question I would ask myself every time I see significant number of dislike buttons. Now, if their comments are offensive, or really quite attacking and already out of the context, then I probably would definitely resort to an option to report that to YouTube. I
Yeah.
will not engage to that person personally. I would not reply.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, it's just not a good. I just don't want to entertain, to be part of that negativity. And eventually, they're gonna be bored if you don't pay attention to these small little dislikes or comments. Like I said, if there's just one or two or even three, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. But if the number is so high and then the comment is really quite attacking, then I'll take action. But I just want to say one last bit on this. At the early stage of my content creating, I'm only 4 months and a half anyway. But on my first few days, there's this viewer, who posted on my video, and then he gave me constructive comments. He said, "Majoy, maybe you can adjust the volume of your audio when you upload it." He even gave me details. I use this bytes or whatever. Um, and then he gave me some recommendations that are criticizing in a good way the quality of my content, maybe my mic. I mean, at the time I had the cheapest microphone, so it was not really so good. Just like any new content creators, we don't really have that we're not that invested yet on equipments unless we see that this is really something we want to do, let alone we're not monetized, right? So yeah, I feel like when that happened, I took it, I thanked him. I said thanks, and he's still one of our subscribers. He's still a regular guy in the community. And I said to him, hey, thanks for calling me out. I said I would be messing up a lot of videos if nobody actually say, hey, your audio sucks, or you could, I can't hear you. So things like that. I think that's my way of my take on that topic.
Would you suggest to someone that they delete a negative comment?
How negative is negative? How negative is the comment? Is it like, is it personal? Is it offensive? Because what I've learned about negative comment, right? If someone is really so negative and so unfairly negative, it's one thing to be negative, but to be unfairly negative.
Yeah.
The rest of the people in the community who's also watching the video or leaving their comments, they don't partake on that. In fact, a lot of times they even tell off that viewer and say, hey, this is not a space to do that. Hey, that was rude for you to say that. So sometimes you will have your own community, your own viewers to call out this type of behavior. And that's why for me, I think I don't engage unless it's too brutally offensive. And then of course, if I have an option to block that viewer, if it becomes really a regular attacking approach, I will block that person. I'll report to YouTube. And I'm very sure that other viewers will also call that person out if that person is really pulling out some really rude and below the belt comments. But in my experience so far, I've never experienced anyone who's really leaving bad comments. I need more comments in my videos. And there's a regular people who comments or some new viewers, but so far there's none. But this is a good topic because it can happen to anyone, and when it does, I think it's good to be prepared with how you can actually frame this in order to not affect your motivation. For me, it's really coming down to me. If this is going to affect my motivation, then I better put a stop on it. If it's not, then I kind of let it die by itself if it's not too much.
Yeah, that's probably the best advice on that. So from that to moving into the third advice I have for you on, how to handle this type of feedback is implementing changes. So essentially what you're going to do, and I've heard Majoy talk about, going into your analytics and looking at your data, same thing. So after you analyze and sort of validate that feedback, whether it's valid or not, because Majoy just said some of it may not be valid, but if it is, make necessary changes, right, to your content. And this will show your viewers, your community, that, you're very attentive to their input, just like the example you gave, and committed to continuously improving the quality of your content. It's all about the quality of your content and what you're giving, what value you have to give to your community and your viewers. And I think that is really, really important. And I think especially if you're new to content creation, or you're new to YouTube, being able to pivot and knowing that you need to make those changes so you can increase your value is so important, especially if you're growing your brand, which we'll get into more of that later. And I think that falls right into the next tip that I have for you, which is being able to keep track. So you're going to monitor and you're going to adapt, because you need to keep track of, the changes that you've made and how they're affecting. So once you make a change, then you need to see how are your viewers, how are your community responding to those changes. So again, it's looking at analytics, looking at your data, because adaptability, basically you're saying, you know what, I'm willing to learn and I can positively impact then your brand's image. I think that's the whole thing, right? I'm getting hyped up about it because this type of stuff is right up my alley, right? Because it's, it's a learning about resilience and how you can adapt. And so that would be the next thing I tell you. I'm saying these tips, but I am also telling you that you have the data to be able to do it. So it's not like you just have to pull it out of the air. The data will inform you of what those changes are that you need to do. And so important. Um, and I think the last tip I want to tell you here is about how to balance feedback. And what I mean by that is when it is important to address it. I mean, we've mentioned that, but it's also important that you celebrate the positive feedback that you get, right? Because you're going to get positive. I've looked at, and this is a place for not for big channels, but we follow big channels. When I first got on YouTube and I was consuming all the content, trying to, understand how to, press this button, do this, what do I do? They also, one time that really, really had me press the pause button and realize the importance of balance. I can't remember what channel it is, and I don't think I want to mention it anyway, but they actually showed how many subscribers they had lost over, I think it was a year, maybe it was less. It was huge, but they're a huge channel, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So it really kind of hit home this, idea that you have to be able to balance that and look at your content and look at, even if you just have one person, I know you have a lot of regulars, Majoy. Absolutely love going to your lives. You get those regulars that show up. It just makes it just amazing. But it highlights, when you do that, you're highlighting your strengths, which is important, and you're striking a balance in addressing that criticism, and then you're leverage. I can't speak tonight. Then we know that you have that positive feedback, and it can enhance your content and hopefully your engagement, because I think engagement with your community, with your viewers, is so important. That helps you build that community, and sometimes they will. Not only will they give you feedback, sometimes they give you ideas.
I agree 100%. And I think for your viewers' background, that's how we met. That's how this whole collaboration and friendship that we have as content creators coming from the same place. That's the birth, basically. And that's for me in my channel. If any of your viewers have also part of my channel, probably because we are sharing a bunch of collaborations or live stream. I think in the essence, it is really, since you've mentioned, it just crossed my mind, because since you mentioned about how big channels losing thousands or a huge number of subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting point. This is not on the plan or on the agenda of what we're going to talk about. This is just on top of my head since you talk about that. The difference between small channels and big channels, and there's going to be tomatoes on my way here from the big channels. I think the big difference there is they create content, and they've been creating content for such a long time. They're heavily monetized. And so at time, I'm speaking in general, and this is just my opinion. I'm not judging big channels. I'm just saying that I feel that the reason why subscribers and they have a big loss on subscribers is because they don't anymore have the drive, the energy, the time to continue building the community that put them in the place where they're at as a big channel.
Yeah.
So I can only speak from my channel as a very small channel.
Mm-hmm.
I average on 30 to 70 views per video. That is really small. I'm not monetized. I don't have any hoo-ha big stuff in my channel, but
Yeah.
I I keep doing what I want to do, and I do it out of passion, and I do it out of my determination. I really enjoy what I do. So having said that, small channels, we work so hard to build communities. And so my advice is, once you become a big channel, just remember to keep connecting and stay with the community who put you where your channel is at. Because it's one thing, I think I talk about this, or we talked about this on my live stream 12 hours ago, where it was very, very important to have community in your channel, big or small, and never, ever, ever forget about those people who were there since your first day, your first week. I think my initiative, or my personal take on that, or my initiative in general, is I always comment on my community tab, or if I receive any feedback or comment from the viewers, I always acknowledge that.
Without a doubt, you do.
And the reason for that is, again, this is, you're a psychologist, and I appreciate all your very educational take on that from your standpoint. But as a salesperson, this
Yeah.
is how you maintain loyalty with your client. I
Yeah.
consider every viewer as my client. I'm selling my brand. I'm selling my video. Every video I produce, I'm selling it to you.
Yeah.
I just need you to click it, to watch it, enjoy it, learn from it, and I hope that you come back for more. But at the end of the day, if I'm actually not connecting with 2 subscribers, 5 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, how many more I have who are constantly taking their time to leave a comment on any of my work, I think that ultimately, as small channels aiming to go big, remember where you came from, remember who put you there to begin with. And in fact, for me, I would even be more excited about my community when we become big channel, because they're part of it. They're the reason why the channel reached that level of success, so that's my take on that. As a small content creator, keep focusing on your community than on analytics. Keep focusing on really reconnecting. That's why I like live stream, because it's really very personal, it's very raw, it's very natural, it's very organic. This is the way for us to really engage. And I like to just highlight what you said just now, that you can see the small group of people in my live stream, and they were not there before. But
Mhm.
because there's a constant, I watch their videos, I interact with their videos. I'm not going to be a content creator who just take, but
Yeah.
many are just taking. So that's when, I'm not going to say all big channels are, maybe they don't have time for small channels anymore. They don't have time to reply to thousands of comments. I get that. But as a small channel, if you keep a practice of really staying connected to your community, for those subscribers who are there since day one, nurture that and just build your relationship and build the loyalty, because that's what's going to be the reason, perhaps at one point, where you're not going to lose thousands of subscribers if you're big already. That's just
Yeah.
the sales approach, and the sales person, or someone in sales mentality.
Yeah. And that's important. That's an important observation, because the the smaller channels have an opportunity for intimacy, and you
Yeah,
can still go in and you can still reply to the comments, you can still talk to,
yeah,
the
yeah,
viewers. And I know a lot of times I have a big channel that has nothing to do with, how to be good on YouTube. And I often don't comment, because I'm like, they're never gonna, I mean, is that really them commenting
yeah,
back? They
yeah,
got
yeah. It happens to me. Yeah, yeah. And I just want to say one bit on that,
Yeah.
because small channels, we care. We
Yeah.
care
Yeah.
about these comments. Small channels, this matters to us.
Yeah.
These small channels, we care. At least I could speak for all the small content creators that I put my comment into their video. It would just take seconds. They reply right away.
Yeah.
You can tell that these small channels, we care. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that the big channels don't care, but I guess when you're huge, it's kind of like, okay, let's do a little analogy here. There's
Sure.
Brad Pitt, and then just a random theater actor.
Mm,
The theater actor would still take the time to stop and sign autographs for 10 people who watch his live performance in the
yeah.
theater. Brad Pitt would probably not be able to sign on
No.
50 million, 20 million fans because he's already all the way up there. That's
Yeah.
my analogy on that as small and big content creators. And my goal is to just really continue caring for my community and my subscribers because it just feels right. It just for me, it just feels right to do that. It's just
Yeah.
you met these people, they were kind to you, they were kind enough to show appreciation to your work. I think that's just a good feeling in the end.
And I think there's a lot more value. And I don't hold anything. I don't think either one of us hold anything against a big channel. I mean, they've done their due diligence. They've worked
Yeah.
their way. I understand. I respect. And but what I want to say is, I think that there's been a lot of headlines that have actually come out talking about the value of small
Yeah.
creators, small channels. There's a lot more value there
Yeah.
than I think is perceived, based on all the things you just said.
Hmm.
And more. So absolutely, I agree with you 1,000% on that. So, which is a perfect segue into talking about diversification. And what is diversification, and should you even do it, right? Well, diversifying, and you often will hear this in the big channel: diversify your channel, be an affiliate, do this, do that. But okay, let's break that down, because what does it mean for a small channel who hasn't even been monetized yet,
Right.
much less you're thinking about all this other stuff? So let's break that down a little bit. I mean, the realness of it, because diversifying your brand, and don't forget, you are the brand. You are the brand, right? But diversifying your brand through expanding your content is what diversification is. But it's also a strategy, it's a strategic move, and it's aimed at reaching a broader audience, right? And enhancing, what you're doing. And so this approach not only introduces your work, your content, your brand to a wider demographic audience, but it also mitigates risks for you. And I'll tell you why: because you don't have just one basket with all your eggs in one basket, right? And so you want to be able to diversify that. And so you're not going to rely just on YouTube or AdSense, and you're going to have some other things, some other, and this is relevant now because, I mean, not that this is TikTok, but they're shutting that down. And a lot of people
Yeah.
over there have only just done TikTok, and it's their one source of income. Now, what are they going to do? And so I think it's important to talk about diversification, even as a small channel, because it can do things for your brand. Even at this level, it can have, you didn't never know how you can grow in a different space compared to this space and another space. I'm not saying give up YouTube. I'm just saying that diversifying is a good thing to do. And it can also bring in new users, so you can have different viewers, a different sort of community. Maybe you can kind of streamline them over to your YouTube community. I don't know. It was very difficult for me to do. I'm still on TikTok, but it's getting ready to shut down. And I can tell you that my community over there is completely different than my community here. So there will be that different. I'm just giving you honest feedback. It was easier, to get people to look at my content on TikTok. And it was just like this, just in shorter,
Right.
consumable stuff. But I like YouTube better, but I was
Yeah.
trying to diversify,
I
Um,
only I only use YouTube. I don't do any
yeah.
of this other stuff. And personally, also before I became a content creator, I have no business with TikTok, and
Mhm.
my Instagram is very uh, it's very boring. There's really not much going on there except if I
Mhm.
post some sports related. I'm very big tennis fan, so if there's any big sports events like Australian Open, US Open, all these big tennis tournaments I follow, that's when I kind of actively go there. But generally, I love YouTube. I think YouTube is just a really good platform in terms
Mhm.
of, to your point, diversification and being able to um, just really tapping into the market that is appropriate to your content. Because, like I said, I don't expect teenagers to watch my content.
Right,
Unlike
right.
TikTok, it's so everyone is on it. So somebody could be swiping on different contents. It's so random. I think that's the word. And I like
Yeah,
YouTube because it's so modified in terms of, okay, this is your topic. You're doing education like us. So there is
yeah.
an age group, and this will show on your analytics. The age group of your viewers, and it would really show that, okay, majority, at least for me, would be in their 30s up to early 50s. So I can imagine this is within my age group as well. But I think diversification, just to add on that, as a sales coach myself, if there's any viewers you have who are into whose content is also education, I think it's important to get out of YouTube as well if you want to diversify. Um, I have actually I was invited as a guest speaker for this one big event in Singapore to basically share. I had 45 minutes airtime to share my tips for sales team in terms of goal setting. So
Mhm.
to me, that was an example of diversification. I
Mhm.
mingled around, I met professionals. We talked about my sales coach program. For sure, some of them checked out my channel just to get a feel of what else can I give on top of the 45-minute session. So if you are actually also getting out of the community outside YouTube, I think that's my advice as well on diversification. Check on, in Singapore, we have very big calendars on events in the whole country in
Wow.
terms of expo. If we have like every week, there's going to be big events here in terms of technology event, in terms of sports event. I'm talking about convention. I'm talking about um, it's purely majority conversion, but a lot of events where you can actually join in a group, women's group for this particular topic, or women's group, professional women's talking about wellness. You can join on these things, at least where I'm at. And I think if you have any viewers who are in place where there's access to that, to diversify your connection and to expose your channel and your product, and your brand, to your point, also check it out, because YouTube is one thing, but being able to get out of that platform and just really drawing in more people to the platform based on your product would be obviously a good thing to do as well, just to see which one would work.
Yeah, and to your point, I know expanding your content, it certainly isn't without challenges, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, it requires that you understand, just like you came into YouTube and you may
yeah,
have just started, and you have to learn your audience, your viewers' preferences. You have to master different content formats because it's not the same.
yeah,
And there's going to be an investment in time, and resources and no immediate returns. I mean, I'm not monetized yet. And I mean, when you're starting something right away, so that said, then what is the key then to diversification in terms of being a small channel? And I think it really has to do with strategic planning. What works for your channel, what other resource will work, and you have to be able to adapt based on whatever feedback. So it really lines up with the point I made earlier when I was talking about being able to adapt with getting like negative feedback, looking at your data there. And so once you analyze all of that data and you look at what's working, then you can fine tune, where do you want to spend your energy? I think that's the ultimate thing. Where do you want to spend your energy, and what do you want your brand's identity to actually mean for you? And I have again, the number's five tonight apparently, but I have 5 ways to diversify your brand, I think, effectively. And these are some ways in which I've actually been doing, because I think diversification for me personally is important because I have other products that are connected to me. So one of the ways that we've already talked about is exploring different content formats, right? So if your content, you could be someone who has a faceless channel. I don't know. I think Majoy, you have a one of your regulars, your loyal regulars that doesn't really show their face. So it could be like a
Yeah.
faceless. Um, yeah, so it could be, you could have a podcast. There's different ways in which, you could try to expand. Each of those formats may appeal differently. So your core audience here might not follow you over. So that's something you need to think about, right? Because your core audience here may just enjoy the long form or the short form or a combination or whatever you're doing. But that's one way you're going to have to explore it and kind of like, I'm going to use Majoy's words, throwing was it noodles or spaghetti
Spaghetti noodles on the wall.
and seeing what sticks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one tip I have for you. The second tip I have for you is to expand in new topics. And yes, this was very difficult for me as well, because when you're expanding, you're going to be looking for tangible, content that's related to the core of what your channel's about. But you also want to attract a broader audience. Okay.
That's exactly what I'm doing with my channel, as if you
Yeah.
notice by now. Just to insert that, that's a
Yeah.
very good advice, Isabella, because as a small channel, we have to also be the best judge, of what is happening in our channel, in terms of growth. I'm not talking about monetization. I'm not talking about all those usual stuff. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about your growth as well as a content creator. And my channel is launched as a sales training channel, but I'm also now adding live stream videos. Eventually, I would be able to do long form videos, about the sales skills that you have that you can actually integrate, that you can actually use as a content creator for the common goal. As a
Mhm.
salesperson, you want to make sales, right?
Mhm.
As a content creator, you want to generate sales. It could
Mhm.
be get to the monetization level. It could be selling your books, selling your coaching courses, whatever product that you're selling. So I
Mhm.
think that's a very good point, Isabella. And my personal firsthand experience on that is it's also stimulating for me as a content creator not to be stuck with the same niche. And I love my niche, it's my passion, that's what I've done all my life, but to spice it up a bit in terms of, okay, in my observation, there's so many approaches I use as a salesperson into my content creating. So why not share it on my live stream? Why not talk about it? In fact, that's what I've been doing on my past live streams. And it's working in terms of connecting with my community. It's
Yeah.
kind of like bring me back to the point that we've just discussed thoroughly just now. It connects me to my community because my live stream becomes more relatable, but at the same time, I don't push away my original viewers who join my channel because of my sales training. So I think in the essence, my advice is it's good to diversify and to kind of branch few things in your channel. This is just my take. Just don't go too far that suddenly you're talking about cooking and then suddenly you're talking about gardening, because you might lose the interest of those who are really there at the very beginning, which is for the reason of what your niche, your original niche is about. So
Yeah.
it's good to diversify because ultimately you as a content creator, you need to be driven, you need to be motivated, you need to be creative. That's why I consider myself, I'm a content creator because I create content. So if I don't have the motivation, I don't have the drive to say what
Yeah.
am I creating today, then it's not gonna work out for me in the long run. So I think the advice I give is check what your niche is and get into yourself. What else actually do you feel is connected to your niche or your original niche, and see how you can diversify that.
Yeah, and it's really hard. It really is. I understand it because you've created this channel, and we're all creating our different. We're giving value from what we have to give, and it can be hard to pivot. I know for me, I was thinking about pivoting into talking about relationships, right? The sort of the psychology, the social aspects, and it would fit nicely in my channel.
Good.
But there's this, like, it was hard. It's hard for me. I haven't even done my first video on it, but it's definitely something I'm going to be doing because I know that I need to expand my topics. Another example would
And
be,
and
go
the
ahead.
best time and the best time to do that, guys, is right now because it's beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And I talked about this in one of my live stream when like in December, I had this 2 hour live stream and I talked about rebranding. The best time to rebrand your brand, if you want to incorporate new ideas, new playlist. So Isabella, if you want to talk about relationship, I think it's a hot topic. Why not? It's the best time to do that. You have the expertise and you can connect your original niche to that topic, and you never know if this is actually something that would actually drive more audience to your channel, and you're still able to really keep the ones who join your channel for the very reason of they're interested on your original niche. So it's just
Mhm.
adding another playlist for me,
it,
but as long as you're still talking about the core of your channel, connecting to that, I think you should consider that, and so as your viewers.
I like, and
Yeah.
thank you for reminding me about the playlist because it would just
Yeah.
fit nicely as you create a playlist. So, like if you had a niche of healthy eating, for example,
Yeah.
um, maybe you wanted to expand in overall wellness, that would fit, like, and you could have a playlist. And for me, it would fit, and I could move on into several different. I mean, there's several different tree branches that I could do.
Right.
I was speaking, it is hard because, but you're not making content necessarily for yourself. You have to think about your community and your viewers as well. And that leads me into collaboration with others. That's my other tip. So, partnering with other content creators, it can expose you. One, its benefits of unexpected friendships, someone who's going through the same thing as you are, so you can relate on that. I mean, across different, I'm in the US, Majoy's in Singapore today. Because I loved all your content before when you were, standing in the snow and when y'all were on vacation, you and your family. But collaboration with content creators is so important, I think, for so many reasons. I That was always my intent from day one. From day one, when I started my channel, I wanted to collaborate. I wanted to get to know and build a community, which is why I started the whole interview thing on
Mhm.
my channel from day. And it doesn't matter, for me, niche doesn't matter. It doesn't have to align with me. In fact, I kind of like when it doesn't because I'm exposed to something different. And surprisingly, when I met you and I went to your channel, I'm like, ooh, sales. But I started to realize, wow, that is so important to me because starting a brand, I need to know how to market. And I had no
Yeah.
clue.
Yep.
And I have learned so much from your videos alone. So to me, collaborations are so important. You definitely want to make sure that you choose who you want to collaborate with. Um, Sometimes you could have overlapping interests, but I don't know. I'm more of a, like, I like to see the different ideas and see how we can merge those together. I think sales can merge with everything, Majoy. I literally believe that. So,
So speaking of collaboration, we have, or I have, you probably know this person from my community. So there's this content creator. He specialized on Uber tips. His
yeah.
content is all about really educating Uber drivers, how the business operates, day-to-day operation, the frustration, and all these things. Is that related to me as a salesperson? In a little way, yes. But when he actually talked about the things he had done right at the very beginning of his content creating, the
Mhm.
technical aspect, and the application or his approach to his channel, and it has grown decently and significantly by doing all those things. I felt like this is a classic example of, you're an Uber driver, I'm a sales trainer. What do we have in common? We're both content creator,
Yeah.
and I can learn a ton from you. And he would say, Majoy, I learned a lot from your one of your communications video, because as an Uber driver, I realized that communication is a key for me to get more tips. Using the right approach to the client, to
Yeah.
my the person I'm sending the delivery to, would actually boost my relationship with them, and they would like me. And I keep saying on my channel, as a say in sales, people will buy because they like you. That's just the beginning of that. So yeah, to your point about collaboration, I feel like I'm open to collaborating with people who I can also learn from. But to your point, I agree. It has to have alignment with what I do and what my viewers also can learn from. We can collaborate privately without
Mhm.
streaming it, but if I'm streaming it online, it is very important for me that I'm not pushing away my regular viewers and say, look, Majoy, what are you doing? Who are these people in your channel suddenly? So yeah, that's the reason why I thought, okay, maybe I can do collaboration with him, because it's also a lot of things that I've never done. And I think one thing so great, before we move on to the next topic, I think one thing so great about small channels, we learn a lot of things on a practical level and
Yeah.
firsthand experience that big channels don't talk about on their content,
Yeah.
because their content, it's all thumbnail tags, change this on your setting, and da 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 da. Fine, that's why I stopped watching big channels, because I've learned from that. Thanks so much, it was nice meeting you. Now I need to learn from my own mistakes. Now I
Yeah.
need to grow my way. Now I need to grow amongst my fellow small content creators. Matter of fact, I my analogy, I am a salesperson, we always have analogy. I think psychologists may have the same approach. My analogy to this is, if I'm on the fifth grade, if I'm in the classroom full of fifth graders, our
Mhm.
learning ability, our journey to growth would more or less be close to one another. Now
Yeah.
put fifth grader in a room full of university students. That's kind of like how I look at it, in terms of small content creators coming together in action, not
Mhm.
just, how I see a lot of comments in couple of other videos I watch, and then it's common. It's so automatic. The first comment you'll see is, any small channels here? Let's come
Gather.
together, da, 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 let's gather here. Do it in action. This is what Isabella and I are doing. Don't do it in words, because there's no benefit in doing that.
No. No.
So exactly why my analogy is, if I'm creating a community where it's small channels, we are all on the same journey of learning, growing, failing, all those stuff, right?
Mhm.
And that's why I like to collaborate. That's another reason why I love to collaborate, because if you really are a creative content creator, you
Yeah.
don't mind to collaborate, because you have something to collaborate with. But if
Yeah.
you're a content creator who just create for the heck of it, for the likes and the views and all that, then it's very difficult for you to find collaboration. So that's
Yeah.
my personal take on that.
Yeah. And I'll finally just add this last thing and then we can move on. But I would say it's so important to be open to collaboration. And
Yeah.
also, I remember when I first started my channel, I was maybe a month in, and I started this whole interview thing. And I reached out to a couple small channels who actually said no. And I was like, really? And I was like, what? I don't understand.
At least they said no to you. I was ignored. Totally nothing. So yeah, that's another
Oh,
topic.
oh, wow, that's another topic. But, it was just shocking because I was like, okay. And I was like, well, that's okay. And I'm still following them because, I think they have great content, but I was just a little bit taken aback because I had this idea, oh, everybody wants to collaborate. No. not so much. So I'm just saying that, we are saying that it's important to keep that option open. Of course, you have the option to say no if it doesn't align with you. But that takes us into, and I've touched on this already, so I'll just be brief with, utilizing different platforms for diversification. So, I do think it's important, if you're only active on one, consider expanding, maybe not a platform, maybe a website, maybe you want to do a blog, maybe you have a Facebook group. You just want to make sure that you kind of put out more feelers, if you want to really grow your brand. Of course, if you're just interested in sticking here on YouTube, that's certainly an option as well. There's many people that do that as well. So I'm talking about increasing your visibility and your reach, if that's what you want to do to diversify. But there's other ways. And perhaps you want to offer, my last tip on this is that maybe you want to offer new products or services, like I saw with you, Majoy, with the Buy Me a Coffee, and you had the whole membership. I'm actually, I'm not going to talk about it on here, but I'm launching something different on my channel as well. I think it's the middle of next month, but this isn't a space for that. But think about offering new products or services, depending on your brand. Depending on what you want to do, but it can be something to complement, something that would attract new viewers. For example, if you produce educational content, which I do, which you do, you could consider, and if you do that as well, you could consider launching an online course, because you have some value, something you can teach. Ebooks, you could consider doing that as well, or webinars. You could do that as well. I'm actually going to be doing one, and webinar really is just a live where you're just maybe showing some sort of visuals to it. That's really what a webinar is. So don't let that word scare you and think you gotta, prepare or buy something. No, you don't have to. But if you take some of these tips and you strategically diversify your content, you're also diversifying your presence, and you can not only maybe attract new community members, new viewers, new customers, however you want to think of your family on YouTube. My experience with it is that it deepens your engagement with your existing followers, and it definitely ensures that you're going to grow. Now, you may grow slowly, but that's okay. That's that evergreen, right? Joy, that is okay, and it's sustainable. That's what you want, is sustainability. It's so important. Okay.
I just wanna say something on my favorite word that you just said,
Yeah.
sustainability.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think anyone who's producing content similar to myself and Isabella, where your content is basically labeled as evergreen. Evergreen content, it takes time to take off. I said this to Isabella 100 times. I said, my channel is not to swallow 3 eggs in 2 seconds. Where I go viral and then you forget, you don't care about me anymore tomorrow.
Yeah.
You have 1 million views for that super viral video, and that's it.
Yeah.
Evergreen content creators, hang in there. It's going to take a while. And my biggest advice for evergreen content creators is just keep creating the best content you can on each video. It doesn't matter if there's no view. It doesn't matter if there's 1 view. It can be frustrating. That's just an aspect to that. But at the end of the day, if you actually produce every evergreen video at the highest level possible, in terms of quality, in terms of content, in terms of your passion, your enthusiasm, you give your all, basically, or you gave your all, it's going to be successful. Maybe not today, but all it takes is a discovery, and that would be a worth viral video for you. So keep creating like it's your last day to create. That's how I look at it. This is my last dance. This is my last video. So I'm going to give my all for this content. And I feel that that's what I've been doing on any video. My last video, I was in Germany. We had this big snow, in the morning, and the whole garden was full of snow. I couldn't resist. Hours prior to that, we were flying back to Singapore. So I said, no, let me get my mic and my phone, and then I'm just going to record it. I had like 30 views, I think, on that video. It was probably one of the most fun video I've done, because the setting, you can't not record on a setting like that. And I think, speaking of evergreen, someone who bump into that video maybe 5 years, 2 years, how many years from now would get the value of that content, but also can appreciate, wow, look at the scenery, look at the view. So all I'm saying is, be creative and stay creative if you're an evergreen content creator, and there will be a moment in time where our videos will go viral, and that's going to happen. It's just really a matter of time with evergreen contents, in my opinion.
Yeah. And, as an example of that, this is our second workshop, and we're experimenting with, where to put it. And we've had some people pop in and out, but currently, we haven't had a lot of viewers. So, but we are still doing it, right? Because it's important. Yeah. It's like it's your last, video, or think of it as your best video. So I think that's important as well. Most content creators on YouTube, I think this is great to move into our next, topic. Very important topic. I have a lot to say about this, but most content creators on YouTube do not intend to violate copyright guidelines. So important. There are things that, you just don't know that could be violating those community guidelines. And sometimes you do unintentionally. And this usually happens due to some sort of misunderstanding about what constitutes fair use, or lack of awareness about the need to have explicit permission to use some sort of copyrighted material, even material that they put out that they say is copyright free. I'm just going to give you a warning on that. It's important for you to understand as a creator that even giving credit to the other creator or stating no copyright intended, because I've seen that sometimes on videos in the description, it doesn't exempt you from getting permission if it's not under copyright free. And even that you've got to be careful with, because it can still result in your content being taken down or receiving a copyright strike. Before I go into 3 scenarios of what that would look like, because this is really just sort of part one. I mean, this could be, go on for forever. I want to tell you this. If TikTok stays up, I don't know if it will. Currently in the United States, it's supposed to go down on the 19th and just go dark. But if it stays up and you have an account at TikTok and you put something up there first, some sort of content, before you upload it to YouTube, technically, if someone comes along before you've had the chance to do that and they upload your content to YouTube with your face and everything, it is now their content. They can say when you put it on your channel that you're copywriting. I know. I don't know. It's just something that, I've never done that. I ran across it and I did some research on it. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, let's talk about a few scenarios that can happen for copyright that could lead to some issues. One of the biggest things is if you use music. I don't think you use music in any of your videos, Majoy, but I do. Not always, but a lot of the times I do. It's appropriate.
And what application do you use? You use Canva or?
I don't use Canva because Canva has issues with even though it says it's copyright free, I knew from the beginning that it had
Okay.
issues bringing it in. So I use an editing program called CapCut, and it has some copyright free music in it. I also go to YouTube's library where you can get that. There's a good place to really get the
Okay.
music from, but it doesn't
Okay.
always have what you need.
Okay.
Pixabay has some free, so you can pay for services. There's just a gamut of things that you
Okay.
can go to.
Okay.
Now, even if the music is not the main focus, which it never is unless I'm doing it on my playlist for where I just do music for a place to go and frequencies and things like that that will align with my theme. But let's just, for the sake of this example, if the music is not the main focus of the video, using copyrighted music without permission, if you don't post the license, you're going to get a claim and you're going to get a strike. YouTube's sophisticated, they have a really sophisticated content ID system, and it can detect even small snippets of copyrighted music, and it can result in automatic claims by the copyright holder. Now, let me say something to you by that. So, if you could unintentionally be doing a live, if you've got the TV on in the background, if someone walks by, if you're outside and they have music on, any of those things, they can say copyright strike, right?
Wow.
You might
Okay.
you might get a warning. Now, I got a warning on my channel because I was very careful, make sure I did everything right, and I used copyright free, on my stream. Lo and behold, for whatever reason, they said, you know what? No, they didn't give me a strike. They gave me a warning. And I didn't understand. They give you the opportunity to say, you know what? I'm going to challenge this, but they don't let you really challenge it because they don't give you they don't let you go to court. They just say, oh yeah, we looked at it, too bad. But they don't give you an opportunity to say, I don't know what you're talking about. And then they take it off after 90 days, but it's just a warning. I didn't get a strike, thankfully. If you get a strike, then you won't be able to upload for a week and all that other stuff. It doesn't really impact your channel until you get 3 strikes, but still it impacts you emotionally, seeing that, because every time you log in, you see that you got a warning until they take it off 90 days. But we'll get into that one. That's the first thing. So just be careful when you're doing lives or when you're uploading any music. What I would suggest that you do is that you upload your video under either scheduled or unlisted. Give YouTube the time to process your video, because mine happened when I did a stream, and so it didn't have time to process my video. Give YouTube time to process it, and you'll see in your YouTube studio where it'll say everything looks good. There's no copyright or anything. And then you can move forward. We're not going to talk about monetization on this workshop, but we'll come back around to copyright and why that's so important when it comes to being monetized. But we're going to move on for the sake of this live. Another thing I want to say is that some creators assume that using short clips of copyrighted material automatically qualifies as fair use. And it does, but you have to be careful. It's a complex area, and it really depends on the context and the nature of are you using it for educational purposes? Do you stop? Do you add to the video? Do you explain something? In that sense, it's okay. But, you have to consider all these factors: your purpose of use, the nature of the work, the amount and sustainability of what you're using. So definitely would not suggest putting a whole video up that someone's done and saying that you're using it as educational. That's probably not going to fly. So you're going to want to be careful with that. But that usually comes in line if you're one of those creators that are doing reaction videos or putting up and commenting on other things. I think this is where it's really important. I also want to say that modifying copyrighted content doesn't prevent you from getting a claim on it. So even if you edit, and a lot of people try to edit or transform, which could be under educational. The original copyright holder still could come back and have rights to that material, and because you've used it without their permission. So what I'm saying is fair use, be careful.
Yeah.
Okay. Be very careful, because understanding these guidelines and consistently seeking permission is a good thing, right? Because that background music at public events can be a problem. Using popular television clips for reaction videos is a problem. Tutorial videos using proprietary software or games could be a problem. So there's a lot of things that you want to do, and I'm not going to go into each example of these, but in each of these cases, just be careful, because you're not intending, most people aren't intending to infringe on copyrights. They just don't understand them, and they find themselves in facing these, warnings or strikes or whatever. So I think it's very important that, you take the time to go into your studio, because there's a section in there where you read through, YouTube's copyright, but it's still so difficult to understand. Let me tell you this real quick. There's another creator that I know that put up a video a while ago, and she said she had got a warning because she put up a video and it accidentally showed an animal's private area, and that's not allowed on YouTube, no matter if human, animal, whatever. Though I sometimes wonder, because I've seen some of these videos, exercise videos, but hey, that's not for me. I'm not the one out there placing the judgment. But anyway, it happened. You know what I'm talking about, Majoy, those exercise
Yes,
videos.
that's very, very interesting. But I just want to compliment you on that presentation on copyright, because I did not have any experience on that myself, in terms of firsthand experience. So well done on sharing a very educational point that small content creators will be picking up from, including myself. Little things like that could really create unnecessary stress to your channel. So that's a great topic, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, I thank you. I appreciate it. I just really wanted to be able to, share that experience that happened to me, so that you could avoid that experience. Because I am a rule follower, and it really hurt, because I was like, I thought I had done, something so
Right.
wrong,
Mm.
and I mean, I just remember how I felt about it, and it really devastated me, to think I was doing everything right, and to realize I made a mistake, and I'm still not really quite sure how it happened. But now I just follow that rule where I upload first, and I wait for it to do its thing before I make it public. So that way I know 1,000% sure that I'm okay, and that I'm not doing anything wrong. So, um, we can discuss, if you want to, Majoy. I can go into some questions. We don't have anyone currently in here, but I could go into some possible questions that they may want answers to based on what we discussed. Or I can let you talk briefly about content scheduling. It's really how you're feeling moving forward.
Um, in terms of what I do with content scheduling myself.
Yeah, because it's such an essential.
Um, Yeah, I think it's actually another big topic. We
Okay,
can go deep into that in our next episode, because obviously we have a bunch and we don't want to obviously overdo the live stream in terms of too much information to your viewers. But just because that's a topic also that I personally am still figuring it out. I made a lot of mistakes of posting one video after the other, in my opinion, because it did not really have, or it did not really generate the view that I average on.
okay,
So I think that's something I think I would be happy to talk about that. We can put that on our next episode. I also want to do a bit of research on my analytics in terms of what is
sure.
the factual points I could talk about in that area, and the practical things I've done. And I'm sure this is going to be a very, very important topic for our viewers.
Mhm.
And we can put that. And I think if viewers can watch this on replay, ultimately the mission of this episode or our workshop, of this collaboration, is to just really learn from one another,
Yeah.
learn things that we don't get from big channels anymore because they're so focused on the basics, which means the flow of new content creators every single day is hundred thousands. So that's the market that they want to cater to, and that's absolutely fine. If they want to keep talking about tags, thumbnails, and all this, that would serve those new channels arriving or joining the platform. But in my opinion, again, just to if we are closing this live stream, I just want to highlight the mission of this of this episode or of this workshop. And so, having said that, if you have anything to share or any topics that you feel really did a good work for you or did a lot of damage to your channel as a small channel. I'm talking about mistakes, screw ups, what you've done wrong. And that's actually going to keep us going with this episodes where we get to talk about on top of the list. Maybe Isabella will put that to your point, scheduling, content scheduling. And we can definitely put that on top of the list for our next stream.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem. I actually would like to go through a couple of prepared questions and answers that I had, just simply because sometimes I think when we're going through this content, I think of stuff that maybe the viewer would want to ask. And since we don't have anyone in here, again, kudos to us for showing. We're modeling behavior.
I mean that's exactly what small channels. That's what we do. We just show up, um, really give your best. I think that on my live stream 12 hours ago, that was raised by Isabella as well. What do you do when nobody show up on your live stream? I can tell you the thing with live stream. It's really there's a timing factor in terms
Mhm.
of your own community, in terms of people who are actually online browsing on what to watch and bump into your live
Yeah.
stream. So it's a very unpredictable thing.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I find that I feel more creative than ever when I'm doing live stream because a lot of ideas are just coming into play while I'm on the live stream.
Mhm.
And just want to say one last bit before we kind of close the live stream on that topic. That's why I do timestamp on my live stream. It's for my
Mhm.
own personal benefit.
Mhm.
Initially, it's for me.
Yeah.
Secondary, the viewers. Why do I put it's a lot of work because I'm going to listen to the whole
Mhm.
live stream and capture the big moment that are not part of the script. Not script as script literally, but part of my bullet points, so to speak.
Mhm.
I do my live stream I do my timestamp on my live stream for my own growth and reference. So when
Mhm.
I go back to my Excel sheet, I will basically log every single video live stream I've been in, I've been collaborated, or I've been a podcast I was invited to a couple of months ago. I really put there the topics we covered and really revisit that when I want to create, when I feel like creating, when I'm thinking, what am I going to create today? Me and my index card, what am I writing here? What will be my bullet points for me to be creative? So I think really don't worry about no one showing up on your live stream. It will be great if there's some, but there's factors have no control of. But you can always refer to your live stream and recreate topics in there that you wish to go in depth with. And to your point, the frequently asked questions. That's why on my live stream yesterday, the first part is frequently asked questions by salespeople.
Mm.
And then the second part, when you guys join in, that was already, I think, at the tail of the first part. I purposely put the salespeople frequently asked questions because it could hit anyone. It could be just any salesperson who bump into my live stream. But the
Mhm.
second part of that is obviously those sales tips those frequently asked questions, sales questions. I try to incorporate that now on the part two of my live stream, which is obviously how that relates to small content creators and how that actually, you know, meet together and became useful for each its purpose. Yeah. So yeah, it's okay. I mean, I think I enjoyed the live stream. It allows us to be creative, and I hope that your viewers will get to watch the replay of that. I'll stream this eventually on my channel. Yeah, I'm sure it's the same bunch of people who would watch it, who knows you as well. But yeah, I think the idea is to really continue with the mission of creating a place and space for content creators, small content creators, all on the same page, going through the same thing and challenges and struggles, and just feel welcome to, really share and evolve as a group and then as a small content creator for 2025. So yeah.
I agree. I agree 1,000% with you. So I think that this will, take off, and people, they will learn that this is a space they can come to and actually action, like you said, take action, meet
Mhm.
other creators, really talk about the things that are happening, in the process of creating, your channel, what's going on, but really about collaboration, meeting people, feeling safe to be able to talk about the things that are going on out there, think real things, not just your thumbnails. Majoy already has thumbnails down packed. So you can actually teach a course on that, but that's another story.
I've been
So
I've been told, but you need to really just have fun with it. That's another
yeah,
topic for another day. I think you really have to have fun with thumbnail. To create a thumbnail, have fun with it. You gotta I look at it like with the eyes of someone creating a school project. Like my teacher said, okay, create the most outstanding thumbnail in the class. I'll do my best to create one and hopefully I get an A plus. That's exactly how I look at my thumbnail. It's really for my own pleasure. It's everything I
mhm.
create. It sounds a bit funny or weird, but everything I create on my channel, from title to thumbnail to description to the content itself, you know what they say, you should produce for what your viewers want to see. That's what they always say. You should be creating channel videos for your viewers. While that is true, I also want to create for myself based on what I feel like creating. That is going to be refreshing for the viewers to say, hey,
Yeah,
initially I wanted to watch this type of content, but this person have this flair or a different
yeah.
jazz on that topic. So yeah, that's how I do it, because that's the way for me as to have fun as a content creator. I
Well,
want to have fun and I want to be happy with what I do, and I am. So that's why I get up in the morning. 12 hours later, I'm back on.
you
It's a beautiful sunny day in Singapore, and I'm on my best. I'm on my desk.
yes,
So yeah,
and that's what it is. It requires work, and it
yep.
requires this. And so I do want to say this as we wrap up today's our second workshop. We'll be doing these workshops for a while at least, and the third one we'll let you know when that's coming out. But as we wrap up today's workshop, I actually want to thank any one of you that came in or is watching the replay for joining us.
Mhm.
And don't hesitate to comment on this video, whether it's on Majoy's channel or mine, and contribute to this conversation and this informative thing that we're doing, because your engagement and your insights not only enrich our discussion, but they can help someone else. Because I always think if you have a question or an insight, usually someone else does, and it strengthens our community of new creators. So I encourage all of you to take a moment, even when you're watching the replay, share your channel information in the chat for each other, and you can connect with each other. It's a really great opportunity for you to network, discover new channels that you may really like, and perhaps hopefully find your next collaboration. Could be right here in the community. So please reach out to each other. I'll say this last thing to give Majoy an opportunity to close, but don't forget to join us for our next workshop. We're going to dive deeper into some more amazing strategies that can help, amazing content tips that we can help you grow your presence, and just talk about our own experiences. So I want to thank you, and I'm going to leave it to Majoy to also give her conclusion, closing up.
Thanks for that, Isabella. I think my closing statement here is I don't have the exact numbers as to how many thousands or hundred thousands of small channels are in YouTube, but I'm very sure that the ratio is so significant that there's more struggling small channels than the monetized or than the big ones. And having said that, if this type of content, this type of workshop, I like to call it workshop because it is a workshop, really. If this type of workshop is valuable to you and you feel like this is actually a good material to be part of, please share it to your channel. And the reason for that is because the only way for small channels to grow is by sticking together in action. And you're sharing this to your channel. I share this collaboration on my channel. Isabella does the same. There could be a potential growth of this, and eventually you can collaborate with someone in the channel. And this is going to hopefully snowball effect in terms of my favorite word, discovery. This type of workshop should be discovered by 100,000 new channels every day who have already figured out the thumbnail, the tag, the description, because you only need about 3 months to really master that game, in my opinion. And after that, where do you go from there? Are you going to watch the same channels over and over again, recycling the same topic for the same intention as we all have, which is to click views and view hours and subscribe and all that? So my take is, in closing, really be part of this community. If you want to grow as a channel, as an individual, and if you want to feel welcome in a community where there is no judgment, if you want to collaborate or message someone in the community and say, hey, I want to do an interview with you, or hey, both of us are similar interests, this is a safe place for that. And in my channel, I do the exact same thing. And I think in closing, this is why I have regulars who come to my channel, and that's because they don't feel like that's a place where they have to walk on an eggshell. Believe me, I've been asked to stop posting comments on someone's channel because maybe that was not a place for that, where you actually try to find collaboration. And yeah, we all know that this is not a common theme to all channels, and that's not judging. That's how they want their channels done. That's fine. But I feel like in any struggling community, you need to support each other as a community. That's the only way to do it. Otherwise, there's no really other way except for us to give them the views, give them the watch hours, and we're just going to sit here all day long and say, would be nice to be monetized, would be nice to grow as a channel. We are just consuming. We're consuming rather than producing. So the goal is really focus on producing and consume what's within the small community to support one another. And probably that's going to benefit all of us in the long run.
Yeah. Thank you, Majoy. All right. And with those words, we are closing this particular workshop out, but we will see you on the next one.
See you guys. Thanks, Isabella. Have a great evening there. See you guys.